Welcome to Hammer Forging, a letter opener. Forging is a manufacturing process that dates back to 4000 BC and involves the shaping of metal using localized compressive forces. But before we get to that, we have to talk a little bit about safety. Keith will show you our two most important safety tools, goggles and gloves. And we can't forget our safety space, but we'll get back to that a little later. First we went to Walmart, Harbor Freight, and Home Depot to get all of our supplies. But now it's time to sweep. And sweep. Okay. Hey, who let this guy in? Hey,
Materials we used for this project included a hammer, anvil, wrench, heat-resistant gloves, and goggles. The forge was made using bricks built around a hole dug in the ground, and a paper stone on top to keep in the heat, creating a simple yet effective furnace. We then used a blow dryer to feed air into the bottom of the furnace. This allows the coals to reach an extremely high temperature.
So first we took a long bar of rebar and stuck it into our forge until it was glowing red hot. This allowed us to be able to hammer the rebar into shape due to the softening of the metal. We started by hammering the rebar on a rock. However, this method did not work too well because the rock was not a flat enough surface and we could not get the flattened edges needed through this method for our letter opener. We realized we needed a different approach to get the desired shape. We decided to buy an anvil, which was a much more flat surface compared to the rock. This allowed us to get the flattened edges needed. We continued to use the anvil to shape the rebar. In order to get the curves in the metal that we wanted, we struck the metal towards the edges instead of the flattened metal surface. This allowed us to create a curve in the metal. By striking the rebar with the hammer and while using the anvil as a flat support, we eventually were able to shape this rebar into a flattened surface with pointed edges. This shape would now be viable as a letter opener due to its unique geometry.
Once the forging was completed, we were then able to take the project to the fabrication laboratory. The metal straight out of the forge was misshapen and rough and created edges that were jagged and wavy, and the surface of the metal was quite dark and rough. To correct this, we first used a bench grinder. This worked to initially smooth and polish the surface of the rebar, as well as correct the jaggedness of the edges. It also began to form a cleaner letter opener shape. Once this was completed, we used an angle grinder to further polish and smooth out the two sides and removed a lot of the pitting initially formed from forging. The finishing touch was done by hand with sandpaper to finalize the piece and prevent any sharp points or edges.
Preparing the Krabby Patty!
We ended up making 3 different designs. One of the designs we decided to make a handle by wrapping paracord around it to create a more comfortable handling experience. Overall, we were very surprised at the difficulty of creating a precisely forged metal object.
Stark was able to build this in a cave! With a box of scraps!
However, by making the rough shape in the forge and using grinders to hone in on that shape and polish the metal, we found that our rebar letter openers came out almost exactly how we envisioned it would, making this project a rather successful venture.